about the directing portion. How long did you go for in the rehearsal portion?
Right.
And how about we start with the rehearsal? How long did that take?
I mean, with indie theater, it's always a little strange because we don't make a ton of money doing it, so then we have to do other things at the same time. So we need to arrange the rehearsing so that it's a little flexible, so that people can make money. So the process typically for theater would be like 2 or 3 weeks full time leading up to the show. Whereas with this, it's sort of, we started over a month before, but then we're doing it like twice a week and then ramping up to 3 days a week. Now, in this production, it was a little crazier even because one of the actors was in a play, so we had to wait for her. Then one of the other actors was in a different play, so in the middle, we had to work around him. And then one of the actresses was gone for 2 weeks in the middle of the rehearsal, so we could only do stuff that she wasn't in for those 2 weeks. So it was sort of haphazard, which wasn't ideal, but at the same time, this play is a very messy play. It's supposed to be a messy play. So I think that kind of energy of that franticness only helped this play.
Okay. So how about the directing it? Working all of 5 different actors, and you were talking about the messiness. How did you handle that?
Yeah, because, well, there's a messiness, but these are still representing people, and there's still a story that we have to tell. So the way that I approached it was basically make sure that each of the actors knows who their character is, knows what the relationship is with each of the other characters, and then knows very much why they're there that night that the show takes place. Why are they there and what do they want? And then with all that armed, with the actors having all those things, now just go and bump up against the other people and see what happens. But we spent a lot of time talking about who these people were themselves and what their past had been like, and then who they were to each other. And it was when I read it, I was like, okay, each of these people is pretty unhappy. They're trying to have the night of their lives, but they're pretty unhappy with where they are in their life. And so they have some kind of hole that needs to be filled. And that what they're trying to do tonight is fill that hole. And so to get the actors to play that, you know what your hole is, but you don't play that because it'll be depressing. You play trying to fill the hole. And then there you keep it alive. And then when stuff goes wrong, all that knowledge of what that hole is can come out, if that makes sense.
Oh, totally. And what were some of the funniest moments you've had directing this play?
Funniest moments? It's just watching them go. There's something like, if I tell them what to do exactly, it only works to a point. And there's some moments where it's like, okay, this needs to go this way to tell the story. It needs to go like this. But most of the time, it was to arm them with all that stuff and then let them loose. And that's where their artistic side comes out and their creativity comes out. And so then they start doing these things that you couldn't have planned or dreamed of, and they couldn't have planned or dreamed of. They're just doing them. And that, to me, that's always my favorite thing. When stuff just happens, it just happens. Like there's one, is this R-rated? Can I?
Of course, go ahead.
So there's one part where they're drinking champagne and the third girl comes in and she's upset that she has to give blowjobs to her boyfriend. And so they're like, well, you're doing it wrong. And so the character Jenna starts describing how to give a blowjob, or like when, more specifically, when do you want to go all the way with it and when do you want to hold back? Because generally if you go all the way right away, then they're not going to care about you anymore. So you got to hold that. So, but as she's describing the different types of blowjobs and then Lucy, who plays Katie, she's holding the champagne bottle. You can probably see where this is going. She started, I didn't tell her to do this. I don't know if it's a decision she made or whether it's just something she found once we started playing with the actual prop. So she started using the bottle. And so like when she's saying, you know, a 1 or a 2 is when you blow kisses, then she's, you know, kind of, you know, making those noises. And a 10 is when you're like gagging and choking or whatever. And so she sticks the bottle away. And then so she had been doing that in rehearsal a little bit. And then at some point towards the end, when we were actually using bottles with water, or champagne, ginger ale in this case, or sometimes champagne.
Now we know the secret.
Yeah, now we know the secret. Just get drunk. Don't get drunk. No, that's not what they did. I don't recommend. Anyway, so then so at one point,
cover up, though.
don't tell the union. So at one point she explains when the guy has his explosion.
That's a good word. That's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah. So then she takes some of the ginger ale and then gurgles it out of her mouth, and it was just because of something she found in the moment. It was very perfect, and like that would always get an amazing reaction from the crowd, of course, every night of a mix of laughter and gasps, you know, depending on who the person was. But anyway, it's that kind of thing that it's not like when you read it, it's like you should do this. It's just something that the actors would find.
Yeah, that sounds like it was a sight to see, and I'm sorry I missed that.
Yeah. She can demonstrate for you.
I'll ask her after, yeah.
Yeah, get her to do it.
I wonder if we have a bottle of it. Okay, well, what about the set? Tell us, as a director, how did you conceive such a set? Because so much is happening in such a, short amount of time.
Well, I mean, in one way, it's a little bit easy because in the play, as opposed to the film, it takes place only in the hotel room. So we can set something up and leave it there. We don't have to worry about changing things in blackouts or anything like that. So that's much easier. On the other hand, our budget was about as small as you can have a budget, so we can't create something. And this is supposed to represent a really high-end hotel suite. Well, I mean, we don't have the money to make it look like a really photorealistic high-end hotel suite, so that was never the idea. Luckily, Jess has some of this beautiful old furniture, so we picked some of her pieces from her place, and some of the photos that have some of these ornate gold frames around them, and then some pieces that were already at the Red Sandcastle Theatre, and placed them in, and left the walls black, like left it as a theater really, so that what we're doing is really more representing the hotel room as opposed to pretending that it's really a hotel room and trying to pass it off as a real hotel room. In that case too, then with the black wall and everything, the couch pops and the actors pop, and it's really them that we watch, and we don't get caught up in the set around them. So some of that I liked as a choice, and some of that was just like, we don't have much choice in the matter. We have to go with what we have. So it's sort of a mixture of those two things always. It's the same with lighting. It's the same with sound. Just we don't have experts on board to create a beautiful something, but it's not clear that we really need it anyway. This is really about the actors and the characters and the situation.
So what's next for you, David?
I'm actually acting in a play this time. Yeah, so that goes up at the Storefront Theatre June 12th until the end of the month. And it's a play called Cockfight by local playwright Kat Sandler, who has done some awesome work. It's also a comedy. She tends to write comedies with a bit of a dark streak to it and a bit of a heart to it as well.
So look out for that, guys, and we hope to see more of you, David, in the future. And
Me too.
Mostly we hope that we'll be able to also experience watching The Bachelorette sometime soon. So I'll try to convince them, guys.
Ooh.
Thank you so much, David.
Thank you very much.